Who are some must-start guys for week 1 of the fantasy football season? I'm going to give you some of my favorite guys that you need to be starting week 1. Guys that will help you win your week 1 matchup. I make new content like this every single day, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also, if you have any week 1 start and sit questions, ask it down in the comments below and I'll answer any questions that you have. With that being said, let's get into the video. Let's start with quarterbacks, and the first player, Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill gets Arizona in week 1, and I talked about this in my wide receiver rankings when I talked about Julio Jones and A.J. Brown. And you can find that video up here above. But I talked about this defense for Arizona that's now without their top cornerback and Malcolm Butler. They no longer have Patrick Peterson there. Malcolm Butler has retired right before the season starts. So now they're left with unproven guys. And you get maybe the best duo of wide receivers in A.J. Brown and Julio Jones coming against this team now. Without their top cornerback, there's going to be fireworks. This game is currently projected to be the highest, or the second highest. Currently has the second highest over-under at 52 points. So a lot of points are going to be scored in this game. Currently, Tennessee is favored by 3 points. So Tennessee is going to be scoring the most points in this game in a very high-scoring game. I want all the pieces of this offense, especially in DFS. I think that Ryan Tannehill is a very, very good play. So Ryan Tannehill, the first player. The second player, Jalen Hurts. And Hurts gets Atlanta this upcoming week. An Atlanta team last year that was giving up the second most points to the quarterback position and really hasn't done a whole lot to get better on the defensive side. They're probably going to be one of the worst defenses in the NFL once again. Jalen Hurts, maybe not the best passer, but last year in the 3 games that he started and finished, was averaging the most rushing attempts at the quarterback position. And we know that rushing attempts for the quarterback is a huge advantage in fantasy football because of those rushing yards. Those are very valuable. So Jalen Hurts has a lot of potential for season long, but especially in week 1 and on DFS as well. So Jalen Hurts for me is a must start for week 1. Another quarterback, Matthew Stafford, who in week 1 gets Chicago, who currently their defense secondary does not look very good. So the wide receivers for this team should have a really solid day. Also the tight end, Tyler Higbee, I like him a lot this week as well. So this should be a really good team, a really good offense season long, and especially week 1 against the Chicago defense that is going to need some work to really figure things out for a couple of weeks. They get a tough matchup week 1 against the Los Angeles Rams, so start him with confidence. Let's move the running backs now. And the first running back, Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards gets the Las Vegas Raiders week 1, who last year gave up the 4th most points to the running back position. Last year, this defense was just awful, and they fired Paul Gunther as their defense coordinator, who just had some bad teams, bad defenses over the past couple of years, and signed new defense coordinator in Gus Bradley. They also had a couple signings, like Ngakoue was one of them, so this defense should be improved. But for week 1, this team should have their way with them. They're currently 4.5 point favorites, and the over-under on this game is set at 51, so there should be points. And if the touchdowns go his way, Gus Edwards could finish as an RB1 for week 1. So the first player, Gus Edwards. The second running back, Chase Edmonds. And kind of how I envision Tennessee having their way offensively with this pass secondary for Arizona, I envision Arizona having to play a little bit of catch-up throughout this game to stay within reach with Tennessee, allowing Chase Edmonds to see the field maybe a lot more than what he would during the regular season. But I also think he's just going to be a big part of this offense throughout the season, but especially in week 1, with a lot of points being scored, with them maybe playing from behind at times, I expect him to be involved heavily, can easily see 6+ targets in this game, have about 10 carries. I think he's going to be a big part of this offense for week 1, and if he is able to get in the end zone, can definitely be a rock-solid RB2 for this week. So Chase Edmonds for me, the second running back. Third running back, Ronald Jones. They get Dallas week 1, and Dallas last year gave up the 11th most fantasy points to the running back position. Now, they did have some injuries, inconsistent play, so this defense should be better this upcoming season. But still, this Tampa Bay offense is just way too good. They're currently 7.5 point favorites week 1, and there's a 51 over-under. That's the current total points scored in this game. So 7.5 point favorites with 51.5 total points scored in this game. There should be plenty of scoring opportunities for this Tampa Bay offense. And with Ronald Jones being their lead back, Their best back on this team, and yes, I do like Giovanni Bernard, but currently he's dealing with a high ankle sprain. He did practice. Let's make sure he plays this week. But regardless, this should be a game that this team wins. So expect a heavy dose of Ronald Jones. And I know some people out there might be thinking, Leonard Fournette, playoff Lenny was really good, but really, he was not good for majority of the season last year besides that playoff run. So Ronald Jones, the best running back. Expect him to maybe score a touchdown or two. I like him a lot week 1. You should play him. Now let's move to wide receivers, where we'll talk about Julio Jones. And I love Julio Jones week 1. I don't like him that much season long, but especially week 1, he's going to be fantastic. Like I talked about Ryan Tannehill, I only expect Julio Jones to benefit from that. There's not many wide receivers that I would play over Julio Jones week 1. You got those secondary concerns right now for Arizona, so I expect these two guys to feast. You need to be playing Julio Jones week 1. And talking about another duo, we have the Rams wide receivers in Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. Both these guys have an A-plus matchup this week against Chicago, and usually when you think of Chicago, you think of a pretty stout defense. Well, this defensive secondary right now is very unproven, especially in the slot, where I expect Cooper Kupp to have a very big day week 1. These two guys need to be played if you have them on your fantasy football rosters. They need to be in your lineups for week 1, and are also very good DFS plays for week 1. So Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. The last wide receiver, Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones, I'm projecting to be this team's #1 wide receiver, should lead this team in targets, receptions. He seemed to have a really good connection with Trevor Lawrence, so I expect big things out of this offense, out of these two guys this upcoming season, and they get Houston week 1. Houston last year was awful. Really, they should be awful once again. Their cornerbacks are not going to be very good. You got Javon Hargraves, who over the past 2 years has been just flat out awful in coverage. They do have Terrence Mitchell, who last year was actually pretty decent in coverage, but still Marvin Jones should have his way with this defensive secondary. So I like Marvin Jones a lot heading into week 1. Now let's move to tight ends, where Tyler Higbee makes sense as well. Last year, Chicago gave up the second most points to the tight end position. You no longer have Gerald Everett, so it should be Tyler Higbee seeing majority of the snaps for this offense at the tight end position. And I expect with an upgrade at quarterback in Matthew Stafford, I expect big things for Tyler Higbee this upcoming season, especially in a plus matchup week 1 against Chicago. So Tyler Higbee, if you have him, start him with confidence this week. The last player, Tyler Conklin. Now that you have Irv Smith Jr. out, you're going to have Tyler Conklin play all the snaps for this team. So especially week 1, if you need some tight end help against Cincinnati, he should be the guy that you're looking at. He's going to play all the snaps, like I said, on a team that's pretty solid offensively and should score a decent amount of points. So you're hoping for a touchdown. So he's a guy, I wouldn't say must play, but if you need some help at the tight end position, he's a guy that could easily score you some points at tight end. So with that being said, that does it for all the players. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and have a great day.